Well, I was interested in the notion of troubleshooting. I have a friend whose father is a corporate troubleshooter, and he goes around the world looking at places that are functioning okay, but there's something not right, and they're too close on the inside to see what that is. And so they bring in an outside pair of eyes to look at the situation and see how there's just something that's not clicking. And sometimes it's hard to see that when you're up close, and sometimes it helps to bring in an outside pair of eyes, an outside perspective to analyze the situation. And I feel like as an artist who travels around the world, trying to make site-specific things, that's what I do. I look to natural history museums for a kind of visual language. I think that museums are great places. It's where you go to gain knowledge through an encounter with things. And that's not so different from what sculpture is. And so as a sculptor, I'm often thinking about how can I communicate in a complex way using objects. So I look to natural history museums for clues on how to be effective, how to say very complicated things with objects. Even though I'm working with what might not be seen as traditional art techniques, I'm working with, in some cases, a truck and a shovel and animal cages and chemicals and books, I still think about the same things that every other artist thinks about. I think about their formal relationships. I think about how you're constructing these elements to make a totality. I think a lot about what the viewer is going to see. The work always has a kind of narrative component. I want them to have a trip. I want it to spark their imagination, but I also want it to reflect on social conditions around the questions of nature. So those are the things I think about, but just because I'm interested in these social conditions doesn't mean I'm not interested in the formal things and in the traditional art things. Those are in there too. I'm the kind of artist, even though my work might be challenging, I struggle very hard to meet a general viewer halfway. So I don't think I'm making work that you need to have a degree in art history to understand. I really want to engage with a much broader public than that. So I think people who are interested in the history of natural history, I think people who are interested in contemporary environmental debates, I think people who are interested in challenging visual art, I think people who love old museums and the kind of texture of natural history, I think there's something for those people here as well. And I think people who want to be challenged in their pursuits of knowledge, I think this is a good place for them to be.